So at this time, we are going to look at square roots of even larger numbers. Before we go into that, because we are going to work with our pegs and pegboards, with our pegs and pegboard. But before we do that, I want us to look at some squares of numbers and their values. Suppose we have a number like this, 3. The square of 3. What is the value of that? 9. What about if we have square of 1? What is the value? 1. Suppose we have a number like this, square of 5. What's the value? 25. So we can see that the values of these numbers, in fact, if we go through our numbers from 1 to 9, we have 1 here, 3, if we have 2, 4, if we get the squares of those numbers, 4 squared, we have 5 squared here, 6 squared, 7 squared, and 8 squared, 9 squared. If we look at the squares of these numbers, what's the square of 2? 4. What about the square of 4? 16. And the square of 6? 36. Square of 7? 49. What about square of 8? 64. And square of 9? 81. So we see that the values of numbers from 1 through 9 have either 1 or 2 digits in them. You can see here we have just 1 digit, 2 digits, 1 digit, 2 digits, and so on. So the squares of numbers from 1 to 9 have either 1 digit or 2 digits in them. Let's look at this chart. We call this the n squared chart. If we look at these numbers, we see that their squares have either 1 digit or 2 digits. So what this is telling us is that when we want to find the square root of a number, we count from the right. Suppose we want to find the square root of 576. We make allowance for the number of digits. To get the number of digits in the root, we count starting from the right. We count 2, 1, 2, get a period. So we know that the square root of 576 will have 2 digits in the answer. Suppose we have a number like this. If we have 5,478,964. We count from the right, as I've said before. Just make allowance 2 periods. 1, 2. This is a period. 1, 2. Another period. 1, 2. Another period. So this means that the square root of 5,478,964 will have 3 digits in the answer. Now looking at this n squared chart, if the numbers under n were tens instead of units, we have two extra categories, so we can add two zeros. If, for instance, instead of 3 as we have here, if we have instead of 3, if we have 30, the square of this will be 900. So you see, we've added two extra categories. That's two zeros. So now let's find the square root of 625. 625. If you want to find the square root, remember the sign. We start by finding how many digits we are going to have in the root. So we count the number of periods, 1, 2, this is one period. So the answer of the answer we are going to have here will have 2 digits. That will mean that we are going to use the binomial square. I'm going to show you the binomial square. So these are our square guides. In this case, as we've said, if you want to get the square root of 625, we know that our square root is going to have 2 digits, so we are going to use this binomial guide square to do our work. And I'll show you the other guide squares as we continue in this work. So this is going to be our guide for this work.